So hello, here I'm gonna make another application, a website in this case, that is gonna retrieve information from an API. And here I have different type of information regarding the weather. I have, well, the most recent one that we can retrieve now, and it happened at 9 o'clock in Helsinki. So this web server should retrieve all the information in order to look like this. It has the city, Helsinki, temperature in Celsius, the weather, the name, in this case is going to be clear, and the icon. The icon though is going to be a longer issue because we need to retrieve also another link from the website, more specifically from the place where we are using this data, but we can now focus on retrieving just the information we have here at the moment. And doing that, we're going to need our text editor again. So we have already set the class that is weather, and the weather extends to react.component as usual. It has a constructor props, super props, and the states. And then the render that returns suffix. So the states is going to have what we want to retrieve. That, like I said, it was the city. So it's going to have the city. It's going to have the type of weather, and it's going to have the temperature. Okay, so in order to retrieve data from this, we might need to create a new function here that is going to be called component did mount. And that function runs as soon as the browser starts. And it's a very good place to place the set state functions as well. That is going to edit, or it's going to, in other words, retrieve the information, and it's going to insert it here into these objects that I'm creating. So in this case, a fetch, and the fetch is gonna obtain, in this case, this link that it has to be like this, JSON, and I'm gonna use it here on the fetch. That's the first part of the did mount. The next one is dot then, and here inside then I'm gonna have a response, and that's gonna equal response JSON, as it's gonna retrieve the data already from this fetch. Then I'm gonna have the then again, response data, and from here we're gonna use the objects. So the objects are gonna be used with the console log, response data, just like that. And finally we're gonna use the this set state, and this one is gonna retrieve the information we needed. So in this information we have the city. It's gonna be response data for sure, dot something. But here we have to be careful. What exactly do we want to retrieve? So we always check to the leftmost side from this code, from this list that we have, and we have COD that it says 200 message CNT list. But what else do we have? We have below. Below is always a 0, 1, and so on. So what else do we have? Where is the name of the city? We might need to go to the bottom of this page And yes, here it is. So it says city, and this is case sensitive, of course, so we need to write it the way it's written here, city, then it says name and Helsinki. So in order to show Helsinki and retrieve that, we need to have response data dot city dot name, as it shows here. Dot city dot name, comma, then the weather, and the weather is the name that I'm giving it to it, but I'm gonna retrieve what exactly do I want from the weather to show. So I'm gonna use the closest to this point, that is gonna be the 0 in this case, because the other hours are the next day or 12 o'clock now. Currently here is a bit after 9, so we're gonna use the 0. So we're gonna have from list 0 as an object, and then we want to retrieve what it says about the weather. So the weather is, the main description is clear, and that's what we're gonna get. So we need to get list, then we have to obtain weather, and finally main. So response data list 0 dot weather with another 0 dot name, and finally the temperature we're gonna use. The temperature is gonna be here. In this case, we're gonna use the, not the minimum, not the maximum either. We're just gonna use the one that says temp. That will be the average temperature. So we're gonna get from list, main, and temp. And this one was wrong. It was, instead of name, it was main. Okay, so list main temp. If I'm not mistaken, again, double checking. All right, should be correct. So moving on with this task, I'm gonna add then the information of this that is going to display on my page. So the first one is gonna be city. Well, I'm gonna do it like this, copy paste. So city, the other one is the weather, and now the name here can be anything. Doesn't matter if it's case sensitive. In this case, it's not. Is the way we're gonna display it, but the object itself is gonna be always inside these brackets. So it's gonna be this state, and the name that I gave to this as an object, it was city. The next one is gonna be the same, but for weather and temperature. And in my web browser, I'm gonna find this file and I'm gonna open it to see what it shows. And yes, bingo, it shows city equals Helsinki, weather clear, and temperature minus 0.25 at this point. So it worked. I could retrieve data from the other back end, in this case from an API, JSON object, and everything seemed to work correctly with the syntax, JSX and React.